My brother commissioned a hand-carved heirloom family tree for my parents' 40th anniversary. It cost more than my car. When it was unveiled in front of everyone, my 6-year-old son pointed to a smooth, blank spot on the polished wood and asked, in that clear, innocent voice that cuts through everything, "Mommy, where are we?" 2 months later, my brother called me from a realtor's office, his voice cracking with rage, screaming that I was destroying the family legacy. I waited for him to take a breath and said, "No, Liam, you already did that. I'm just selling the evidence." I wish I could say I was shocked. I wish I could tell you that when I saw that empty space on the wood, my world shattered, or time stood still. But the truth is, it was just a confirmation. It was like spending your whole life feeling a draft in a room, and then finally, someone points out the gaping hole in the wall that you've always known was there. The feeling wasn't surprise. It was a cold, quiet, and utterly devastating validation. The party was held at the Crestwood, a country club that smelled like old money and quiet judgment. The carpets were so thick they absorbed sound, creating a weirdly hushed atmosphere, even when the room was full. My brother, Liam, and his wife, Chloe, had orchestrated the entire event. They moved through the crowd like royalty visiting their subjects. Liam with his perfectly tailored suit that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage, and Chloe with her serene, Botoxed smile that never quite reached her eyes. They were the sun, and the rest of us were just planets, expected to orbit them gratefully. My parents were glowing. My dad, a man who measured success in stock portfolios and golf handicaps, was clapping Liam on the back every 5 minutes. My mom, a woman who has spent her life smoothing over uncomfortable truths, flitted around, her face a mask of anxious joy. Her mantra had always been, "Let's just have a nice time," which was code for, "Please don't bring up anything real." My husband, Mark, stood beside me, a solid, warm presence in the chilly room. He's an engineer. He sees the world in terms of structure and integrity, and he'd seen the cracks in my family's foundation from day one. He gave my hand a discreet squeeze. "You okay?" he murmured. I nodded, a lie we both understood. And then there was my son, Finn. My sweet, beautiful Finn. He had his treasure pocket full, a collection of unusually smooth stones he'd found by the creek behind our house. Before we left, he'd carefully selected a small, heart-shaped one to give to his grandparents for their anniversary. He was wearing a new button-down shirt that he'd complained was too scratchy. But he wore it without another word because he knew it was an important day. He was trying so hard to be the good, easy grandson they could never quite see. I was so proud of him. It ached. I watched him try to show his rock to my father, who patted his head distractedly and said, "That's nice, son," before turning back to a conversation about market trends. I saw Chloe steer her own 2 perfect children, Aiden and Olivia, away from Finn, murmuring something about not getting their white clothes dirty. Every interaction was a tiny paper cut. I was used to them, but seeing them directed at Finn was like salt being poured into each one. Then came the main event. Liam tapped a crystal glass with a spoon, and a hush fell over the room. He launched into a speech about legacy, about roots, about the importance of knowing where you come from. He talked about our parents' journey, painting a picture so glossy and perfect, it was unrecognizable. My life, my contributions, my existence were neatly edited out. I was just a vague part of the early years," he ended with a flourish. "And to commemorate these 40 incredible years, and the foundation they built for generations to come, Chloe and I commissioned something we hope will become a true family heirloom." 2 waiters pulled away a large velvet cloth. There it was. A magnificent family tree, carved from a single piece of dark, polished oak. It was stunning. A genuine work of art. The main trunk had my parents' names engraved in elegant gold leaf script. Branching off were their children. There was Liam's branch, thick and prominent. From it, smaller branches sprouted for Chloe, and then for their kids, Aiden and Olivia. Their names gleamed under the soft lighting, and then nothing. To the left, where my branch should have been, was just smooth, empty, polished wood. It wasn't an oversight. It was a statement. A void where my family, me, Mark, and Finn, was supposed to be. The room was silent for a beat, and then polite applause broke out. No one seemed to notice, or more accurately, no one wanted to be the one to mention it. It was then that Finn, who had wiggled his way to the front to get a better look, asked his question. "Mommy, where are we?" He wasn't sad or angry. He was just confused. He was looking at a map of his own family, and he couldn't find himself. The applause faltered. A few people shuffled their feet. My mother's smile froze on her face, her eyes darting towards me with a look of pure panic. My father cleared his throat, suddenly fascinated by a speck of lint on his jacket. It was Liam who broke the silence. He let out a short, dismissive laugh. "Oh, the artist had to simplify the design a bit, you know how it is," he said, waving a hand as if he were shooing away a fly. "We'll get your names added on later. Maybe a little plaque or something." A plaque? Like we were a footnote. Like we were an afterthought to be tacked on. My brother's wife, Chloe, chimed in with her syrupy voice. "Of course, sweetie. It's just so detailed. We focused on the direct lineage first." Direct lineage. As if I, his only sister, was some distant, twice-removed cousin. The other adults in the room took their cue. A nervous chuckle rippled through the crowd. My uncle, a man who always laughed loudest at my expense, boomed, "Guess you gotta earn your spot on the tree, eh, Alara?" And a few people laughed along with him. The humiliation was a physical thing. It felt like a hot flash, prickling my skin, tightening my chest. I looked at Finn. His face was starting to crumple. He understood now. He understood the laughter was at our expense. He looked from the tree to me, his eyes wide with a question he didn't know how to ask. Why don't they want us? That was it. That was the moment the years of quiet acceptance shattered. My husband, Mark, didn't hesitate. He didn't look at me for permission. He simply moved. He stepped forward, scooped Finn into his arms, and held him close. He looked directly at my brother, his expression completely unreadable, and said in a calm, level voice, "The craftsmanship is beautiful, Liam. A real statement piece." Then he turned to me. "I think we're done here." I nodded, unable to speak. The lump in my throat was too big. I couldn't look at my parents. I couldn't look at anyone. I just focused on the back of Mark's head as he carried our son. We walked out of that ballroom, leaving a wake of stunned silence behind us. No one called after us. No one tried to stop us. My mother made a small, aborted movement, a hand fluttering to her chest, but she stayed put. Protecting the peace was always more important than protecting her daughter. The walk across the plush carpet and out the grand doors felt 1,000 miles long. When we got to the car, Mark gently buckled a silent Finn into his car seat. My son still had the heart-shaped rock clutched in his hand. He hadn't given it to them. The drive home was silent. The only sound was the hum of the engine and the occasional soft sniffle from the back seat. I didn't cry. I felt hollowed out, scoured clean of any remaining hope or obligation. This wasn't just an insult. It was an erasure, a deliberate public declaration that we didn't matter, that my art, my life, my husband, my child, were all a blank space on their perfect family tree. When we got home, Mark made Finn a cup of warm milk with honey. I sat on the floor of the living room and just existed. I didn't move. I didn't think. I just felt the cold, hard certainty of an ending. After Finn was asleep, tucked into his bed, Mark came and sat next to me on the floor. He didn't try to hug me or offer platitudes. He just waited. Finally, I spoke. My voice was raspy. He paid thousands of dollars to tell the world we don't exist. Mark nodded slowly. I know. After another long silence, he said, So, what are we going to do about the lake house? And just like that, the plan began to form. It wasn't born of rage, but of a chilling, profound clarity. I went to the filing cabinet in my studio, the one where I keep receipts and paperwork. I pulled out a large gray accordion file. On the tab, written in my own handwriting from years ago, were 2 words: the cabin. Inside was over a decade of evidence. Property tax receipts, invoices for a new roof, plumbing repairs, dock maintenance, all paid by us. Emails from Liam saying, Hey, can you cover the taxes this year? Things are a little tight. Followed by years of silence. Photos of his family enjoying the cabin, posted on social media with hashtags like #FamilyLegacy and #LakeLife, without a single mention of who actually kept the lights on. I took out a fresh manila folder and placed the photo of the blank family tree I discreetly snapped with my phone right on top. They wanted to show me my place in the family. Fine. I was about to show them theirs. This wasn't the first time they tried to erase me. It was just the most expensive. It started so early, I can't remember a time before it. Growing up, our home was a stage, and Liam was the star. I was the stagehand, the quiet one in the wings, expected to work the lights and clap on cue. My art was never art. It was Elara's little hobby. It was that messy clay stuff she does. I remember in 10th grade, I won a regional award for a ceramic sculpture I'd spent 6 months creating. I came home, my certificate clutched in my hand, my heart pounding with pride. I showed my parents. My dad glanced at it and said, That's nice. Did you hear Liam made the varsity soccer team? He's a starter. My mother added, Just be careful with that clay, honey. It gets all over the carpet. The next day, I found my sculpture in the garage, shoved behind a lawnmower. Liam needed the space on my desk for his new computer. Their currency was what was tangible, what was impressive to outsiders. Liam's athletic trophies gleamed in a custom-built cabinet in the living room. My art awards were kept in a shoebox under my bed. When he got a B in calculus, they hired him a tutor and praised his grit. When I got an A+ in literature, my dad asked, But what kind of job can you get with that? They paid for his business degree without blinking, calling it an investment. When I got a scholarship to one of the best art schools in the country, they were hesitant. "Are you sure about this, Elara?" my mom asked, her voice tight with concern. "It's so unstable. Liam's friend's sister went to art school, and now she just waits tables." The ultimate symbol of this disparity was the lake cabin. It was my grandfather's sanctuary. He was a carpenter, a man who believed in the beauty of working with his hands. He and I were kindred spirits. He taught me how to read the grain of wood, how to feel the story in a piece of stone. When he passed away, he left the cabin to me in his will. Not to the family, to me. I was 22. I was devastated by his loss, but so deeply honored by his faith in me. Then the family meeting happened. It was an intervention. My parents, my uncle, and Liam all sat me down in the living room. "Elara, we need to talk about the cabin," my father started, using his serious CEO voice. "It's not fair for one person to hold on to a family asset like that." "But Grandpa left it to me," I whispered. Liam scoffed. He was old, Elara. He was probably not thinking clearly. That cabin has been in our family for 50 years. It belongs to all of us. Soon they wore me down with talk of tradition, of legacy, of what was right. They made me feel selfish, greedy, and ungrateful. They proposed a family trust. The cabin would be put into the trust so everyone could share it. Naively, I agreed. I signed the papers. What I didn't realize then was that the trust documents made me the primary trustee, legally responsible for all upkeep and taxes, while granting them all equal access. It was a masterclass in manipulation. I was legally shackled to their free vacation home. For the next 15 years, Mark and I paid. We paid the property taxes that doubled, then tripled. We paid for the new septic system when the old one failed. We paid for the tree removal after a bad storm. We paid for the dock to be rebuilt. Every request for Liam to contribute was met with an excuse. "Man, the markets are brutal right now. Chloe and I are saving for the kids' private school. We just booked a trip to Europe, so cash is tight." Yet every summer, my social media feed would fill up with their pictures from the cabin. Liam teaching his son how to fish off the dock we paid for. Chloe sipping wine on the porch we had restained. They sent us a Christmas card one year, with a family photo of them standing in front of the cabin. The caption reading, "Happy Holidays from our happy place." It was a special kind of cruelty. They didn't just use me. They flaunted it. They made my financial sacrifice their aesthetic. Mark wanted to put his foot down years ago. "This is insane, Elara," he'd say, looking over another $5,000 repair bill. "They're using you." But I always found an excuse. "It's keeping the peace," I'd argue. "It's the last piece of Grandpa I have left." But after that night at the country club, I finally saw the truth. It wasn't about peace. It was about my subjugation. It wasn't about my grandfather's memory. They had corrupted that, too. They had taken his final gift to me and turned it into my lifelong burden. Sitting on my studio floor, surrounded by a decade's worth of receipts, I realized the family tree wasn't an insult. It was a gift. It was the key that finally unlocked my cage. They had shown me, in undeniable polished oak, that I was not part of their legacy, and so I no longer had any obligation to maintain it. The next morning, I called our lawyer. I explained the situation, the history of the trust, the sole financial responsibility we held. I emailed him the trust documents, the will from my grandfather, and a spreadsheet Mark had meticulously kept for years, detailing every single penny we had spent on the cabin. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Then he said, "Elara, based on this, you are well within your rights to dissolve the trust and sell the property. In fact, I'm surprised you haven't done it sooner." There was no face-to-face confrontation. There was no screaming match. My rebellion was cold, quiet, and legally binding. Our lawyer drafted the letters. One was an official notice of the dissolution of the Linden Family Trust. The other was a letter to a highly recommended local realtor authorizing her to list the property at fair market value, effective immediately. We didn't send them to my family. We sent them directly to their respective lawyers, copying them in. The digital equivalent of a surgical strike. For 3 days there was silence. It was the most peaceful 72 hours I'd had in years. I spent the time in my studio, my hands covered in clay, feeling the familiar, grounding texture. I made a small lopsided bowl with Finn, and we painted it with bright blue stars. He was happy. He wasn't asking about the family tree anymore. He was just a kid, making art with his mom. On the 4th day, my phone rang. It was Liam. I let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again, and again. After the 5th missed call, a text message appeared. "Call me. Now." I ignored it. Then came the email. Subject line: "Urgent. The cabin." The body of the email was a frantic, typo-riddled mess. What the hell is this, Elara? You can't just sell the cabin. It's family. It's Grandpa's legacy. Dad is having a fit. Call me immediately. This is not a joke. I took a sip of my coffee and didn't reply. The real confrontation came that evening. A call from my mother. I decided to answer. "Elara, thank God," she began, her voice strained. "Your brother is beside himself. You need to call this off. What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking about what's best for my family," I said calmly. "My family. Me, Mark, and Finn." "But the cabin is family," she insisted, her voice rising. "It's where you all grew up. It's where your father taught Liam how to sail. It's our history." "And who paid for that history, Mom?" I asked. "Who paid the taxes last year? And the year before that? Who paid to have the roof replaced so your memories wouldn't get rained on?" There was a sputtering silence. "Well, we all chip in our own way," she stammered. "Liam is very busy, you know that. He provides morale." "Morale doesn't pay the property tax," I said, my voice flat. "Grandpa left the cabin to me. You all pressured me into signing it away into a trust I couldn't afford, but was legally obligated to maintain. For 15 years, I held up a family legacy that I wasn't even considered worthy of being carved into. The legacy is over. I'm selling it." "You're doing this to punish us," she cried. "This is because of that silly family tree, isn't it? It was just a design choice. Your brother was going to add your name." "No, Mom," I said. And this was the truest thing I'd ever said to her. "I'm not doing this to you. This is the consequence of you. All of you. Goodbye." I hung up the phone. My hand was shaking, but not from fear. It was from the sheer, unadulterated power of it. I had finally, after a lifetime of being silent, hung up. The fallout was a cascading series of explosions. Liam, realizing I wouldn't engage, tried to go around me. He called Mark, who listened patiently to his 10-minute tirade before saying, "Liam, I support my wife's decision, 100%. The conversation is over." And hung up. My father left a voicemail. Not angry, but disappointed, which was always his deadliest weapon. "Elara, I don't know what's gotten into you. Your grandfather would be ashamed of you, selling off his memory for money." I deleted it without a second thought. My grandfather would be ashamed of them for turning his gift into a weapon against his own granddaughter. Then, Chloe tried her approach. She sent me a long rambling text message filled with heart emojis and feigned concern. "Elara, my heart is just breaking for our family. I know you're upset about the tree, and I'm so sorry if that came across wrong. It was truly just an artistic choice. Let's not let a silly misunderstanding tear apart decades of memories. What will the kids do without their summers at the lake? Can we please just talk? For their sake?" I stared at the message, at the casual, calculated cruelty of invoking the children. I typed back a single sentence. "You can find the Zillow listing online. The first open house is next Saturday." The response was instantaneous. A single furious red thumbs down emoji. The mask had slipped. The listing went live on a Friday. It was a beautiful listing. The realtor had done a fantastic job. The photos were bright and airy, showing off the warm wood floors and the stone fireplace. The description talked about a rare opportunity to own a piece of lakeside history. The price, based on current market comps, was substantial. Substantial enough that it would not only recoup every dollar we had ever spent, but would also provide a significant college fund for Finn and a down payment on a small studio space for me, downtown. The first ripple effect came from the extended family. My uncle, the one who'd laughed at the country club, called me furious. "You're putting us all in an awkward position, Elara," he barked. "What do you expect us to do?" "I don't expect you to do anything," I replied. "This doesn't concern you." "The hell it doesn't! We have our week booked in August." And it turned out Liam had been gifting weeks at the cabin to other relatives, playing the role of the generous patriarch of a property he didn't even pay for. The real tidal wave hit when Liam tried to buy it. He put in a lowball offer, about half the asking price, with a note from his lawyer stating that, as a primary beneficiary of the intended family legacy, he was entitled to a significant discount. Our lawyer laughed when he read it. We rejected the offer, without a counter. That's when Liam's panic truly set in. He sent a mass email to the entire family, aunts, uncles, cousins, with the subject line, "We have to save Grandpa's cabin." He painted a picture of me as a bitter, vengeful woman, trying to destroy their history out of spite. He appealed to their sense of nostalgia and family duty, asking them to all chip in to buy the cabin from me, the hostile party. And that's when the most unexpected thing happened. My cousin Sarah, who had always been quiet like me, replied to all. "Liam, I'm confused. I thought Elara was the one paying the taxes all these years. I remember Dad saying something about it a while back. If we all want to buy it, shouldn't we be paying her back for the last 15 years of upkeep first? Just seems fair." The silence in the email chain was deafening. Someone had finally spoken the truth out loud. The narrative Liam had so carefully crafted began to unravel. Suddenly, the family legacy, had a price tag, and no one was willing to pay it. The beautiful free vacation home was now a complicated, expensive asset, tainted by the truth. The offer started coming in from strangers. Good offers. We accepted one from a young family from the city who wrote us a letter about how they dreamed of raising their kids by the lake. They reminded me of us. The closing date was set. The cabin, my burden, and my grandfather's corrupted gift was finally being set free. And so was I. The lesson in all of this wasn't about money or property. It was about value. For 35 years, I had allowed my family to define my worth. It was measured in my silence, my compliance, my willingness to be small, so they could feel big. I thought that by absorbing the cost of their comfort, financially and emotionally, I was earning my place. The empty space on that family tree taught me that my place was never available to be earned. It was a members-only club, and I didn't have the right credentials. My brother wasn't just being cruel. He was being honest. In his world, my life, my quiet, creative, non-lucrative life, was a blank space, a footnote. Breaking the cycle wasn't the big, dramatic scene at the party. It was the quiet, methodical work that followed. It was the hours Mark and I spent with the file box, the calm conversation with our lawyer, the simple, unwavering no. It was realizing that legacy isn't something you inherit or have bestowed upon you in gold leaf on a piece of wood. It's something you build. It's in the quiet moments. It's in the way Finn doesn't have to tense up when he enters a room. It's in the way he hums to himself when he's drawing, completely unself-conscious. It's in the safety he feels in his own home, a safety that is absolute and unconditional. My legacy is the peace in my own house. It's the art I create without seeking anyone's approval. It's the son I'm raising to know that his worth is inherent and non-negotiable, that he will never have to earn his place on our family tree. A few weeks after we accepted the offer on the cabin, a package arrived. It was from my mother. Inside was a small silver picture frame. It was the kind you'd buy at a mall kiosk. Tucked inside was a printed photo of the oak family tree, and on the blank space, my mother had taken a silver Sharpie and crudely written our names: Elara, Mark, plus Finn. There was no note, just this sad, flimsy attempt to fix an unfixable wound. It was the perfect metaphor for her entire approach to motherhood. A cheap, surface-level solution for a deep structural problem. I didn't get angry. I didn't even feel sad. I just looked at it, and for the first time, I felt nothing but pity. I took the frame, and I put it in the box of things to be donated. I didn't need her silver Sharpie. I was busy building my own legacy, and it was made of much stronger stuff than that. So now, I turn it over to you. I know what I did was extreme. I effectively dismantled a piece of my family's history and sold it. Some would call it vengeful. I call it liberation. But I have to wonder, where is the line? When does keeping the peace become self-betrayal? When does a family asset become a personal prison? I want you to tell me in the comments. What would you have done? Would you have fought to have your name carved into their tree? Or would you have planted your own? There are no easy answers when it comes to family, but I believe sharing our stories is how we find our way. Let me know your thoughts. And if you believe in the power of breaking cycles and telling hard truths, hit that subscribe button and join the conversation.